You'd probably be really surprised just how many people are in this world where they're married to somebody they want to be married to. And you might have some dark thoughts every now and then. We kind of prompted people on our social media and said, hey, tell us what you're going through. What are those thoughts like? Do you ever feel trapped in a marriage you don't want to be in? Maybe you've got kids. Maybe it's financial situations that you can't get out of. And we got a bunch of interesting messages from our WRMF app and the mic drop feature. People are just kind of, I guess, unloading. I know, Virginia, you've been in a tough situation once before in your life. And it's just got to be something. You always got to be in your own head, I would imagine, the thoughts that you have and be like, how do I get myself out of this?
Constantly. And if you are in that and then you are constantly thinking about it and you're like me and you're overly paranoid about every detail of everything, you can start to downward spiral by not being in that healthy headspace because you're with the wrong person. And they may not even be as bad as you have created in your head, which I think is some of what I went through. Yes, there was really bad things, but then as soon as I saw the really bad things, then I created all these other bad scenarios because I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
And this person, for a period of time, changed me because I was so upset. Like, if that's the kind of relationship you're in and all you do is think about not wanting to be in it, just get out of it and stop mentally torturing yourself.
We got several messages that came through on the mic drop feature, but there was one particularly that kind of stood out to me.
So my husband, 15 years ago, he was the love of my life. And we have 3 kids, but he has grown into be a terrible man. It would be better off if he died than if we divorced, because if he's still alive, my kids still have to hang out with him. And I can't be the only one out there, and I just need to vent like I'm married to the worst man in the world. And he's not violent, but he certainly is emotionally with all of us. So I just don't know.
Is that normal to think that way?
I think so. I think it's very normal.
She just wishes maybe something would happen to him and they'd all be better off.
She doesn't want to poison him, Antifreeze in the sweet tea is detectable now, so don't.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's totally normal.
Well, you're right. When you see all the poisoning stories that are out there, clearly there's a lot of people who have had this thought.
Well, if you're like me and you watch a lot of Dateline, you now know how not to do it.
Yeah, Dateline's even made me paranoid about taking stuff from people. I'm not even married.
Never take a drink from a wife that's mad at you.
Kind of interesting, just some of the deep and even dark thoughts that some people have about the miserable relationship that they're in. We just heard a mic drop from somebody who is in, it sounds like a toxic marriage, not physically abusive, but verbally, and to the point where she's just wanting him to go away. But how does that happen? She just wants him to leave her and her kids alone. Her alone and just kind of be on her own. Now, it's interesting, some of the messages that are coming in right now on the app and even some of the text. Somebody from the 954 said, yeah, I'm in the same boat as her. It's awful. It's just sad that you put all your love, hopes, and dreams into someone who becomes a complete a-hole that makes you question your worth. And I think that's more on the level of, sometimes people just stop being nice, unfortunately, in relationships.
Or some people are really good at hiding what a person they are.
Yeah.
If they're crazy, sometimes you don't see the crazy until you're in it for a few months, and the crazy will start to materialize, and then you're like, oh my gosh.
Also, too, sometimes life has a way to make some people jaded, and people can change, and we don't know all the details on that situation. We know one side of that. See what I'm saying? So how do we know there's not other things going on there?
Well, there are a lot of people that are texting in and even sending in messages who can at least kind of relate to what you say. Now, hey, you wouldn't want to verbalize it really necessarily and say it out loud to all your friends, but yeah, there are a lot of people that said, I kind of get what she's saying.
I was dating someone for 5 years who ended up being verbally abusive. 3rd year into our relationship, we were not married, just dating. He had to have triple bypass surgery. I stayed at the hospital all night long, but secretly I was hoping he didn't make it through. So I understand how the lady feels.
Wow.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah,
huh?
a lot of women want their husband dead.
Look, it's real. You don't want to kill him yourself, but especially if he's either mentally or physically torturing you or your children,
Yeah.
which happens a lot in marriage. A lot of times one person mentally tortures the other, and it's okay to wish them dead because you're trying to preserve your own sanity and your kids' sanity.
It's eye-opening to me just how many people were kind of sharing this thought.
I was married for 12 years, had 2 children. They were 5 and 9 at the time. And I actually did Hawk and safety, and it took me 4 years to get out of that situation. But I had those thoughts, and to be very honest, it actually happened. And their dad passed away of a cocaine overdose. And
Wow.
to this day, it was hard because that's still their dad. So having those thoughts are not always the best thing in the situation, but I understand where she was going. And it's not easier on the kids because they still have a lot of questions and they still have a lot of things that were not answered. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that frames that really well.
It does, because if you get what you wish for and you wish
Yeah.
him dead, now your kids don't have a dad, and even if he was a terrible dad, at least they had some contact with him at some points.
Right. What look at it through their eyes. And sometimes I think you
Right.
lose yourself and your only perspective is through your own eyes, that you got to put yourself from your kids' frame of reference and how they would feel about it too.
What's better, a terrible dad or a dead dad?
Yeah.
It's a great question. I guess it depends on how terrible he was.
Well, it depends on who you're talking about, because I think the kids would probably rather have him around.
I'm not gonna lie. Marriage sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All these stories I'm always hearing on the show really paints it in such a rosy
And, you
way.
know, some of these people, they're not even necessarily married. Some of them aren't. It's just they're in a relationship where they have a live-in and they're just financially attached to them. You know, sometimes it's not even the marriage certificate. You just are in there with your kids and
your bad
finances,
choices.
Your bad choices, and here you are. You know, and
Because
it's just not easy
people
to
can
leave.
hide. People can hide in the beginning of a relationship how crazy they are, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't see it, and then you're like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?"
My personal opinion, I think parents are better off divorced. If you are fighting in front of your kids all the time and it's awful like that, and you really don't like your mate and your kids are seeing that, I think it would be better to go separate ways for everybody involved. But
This person said, in my situation, I completely relate to these, but we split the rent and can't afford to live anywhere else on my own. So I feel trapped in the situation. So I think a lot of people are kind of dealing with that right now, especially in South Florida.
If you are, though, just like Jay Bird's saying, make a special effort to not fight in front of the kids. Make a special effort to not have them grow up thinking that dysfunction is normal, yelling is normal, fighting is normal, because it's not, and it's not cool, because those kids are going to grow up and repeat the same behaviors that they learned by watching you, and you don't want that for them. You want them to have a happy, loving relationship, not a relationship that's fueled by drama and fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, a lot of people are saying, yeah, these women just need to leave because life is way too short. And I'm sure a lot of them would like to. And I guess that's the question, how do you get yourself in that position where you can
Sometimes
financially and
It's
emotionally?
easier to say
I
than to
know.
do, especially with what it costs now to go rent first, last, and deposit. Oh my gosh, who's got $7,000 just laying around for nothing?
drug dealers.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's scary.
Well, if you feel a need to vent on anything, you can always do it. Download that WRMF app, look for the little microphone, the bottom left-hand corner, and leave us your deepest thoughts.